Let's talk about the cold frames a little bit. Then we'll see how they hold up to a decent snowstorm. What I found so far is having a screen on top. You can see we got snow and ice on this still, even though it's melting off nicely. But we want to make sure that that doesn't sag down, and I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. Let's get this one opened up. Even getting down into the teens, as long as you have a good thermal mass, got a little mulch in there, keep that soil warm, you're gonna be good to go. But right here is one of the hazards. You get a little snow, you get a little water, even though you pulled it tight, it wants to sag that down to the ground. And if you have any plants underneath there, you're gonna crush them. Even pulling this tight and weighting it down, you still get some sag in it. And if you get a big old chunk of ice, our baby spinaches, our cabbages, broccoli we just put in, our Swiss chard, so far so good. I have to admit, this is sort of a vanity project for me. I've had something growing in this garden for 4 straight years. Hopefully we'll make it through the -1 that's coming up. Even our little baby spinach is doing great. You gotta remember the weight of water, 8 pounds per gallon. You get a decent little rainstorm, if you've got any kind of sag in your plastic, it's gonna drop it down. I thought I had this a little tighter than it is. Then you get a big old piece of ice. You don't want to poke a hole in your plastic. So far, so good. Cilantro, carrots, cabbage, beets, lettuce, Brussels sprouts. With a little bit of cover and a little bit of mulch around it to keep that soil warm, you can do this too. Let everything get just a little bit of sun. We'll be ready to pull this stuff tight tonight. Now, of course, I probably didn't plan this out as good as I should have. There's a couple different kinds of plastics you can use. I got the heaviest plastic I could get within reason, and it's a 10 mil, but it only came 10 feet wide. It's plenty long, but it doesn't quite cover everything. So I have these hoops. Hopefully it'll keep it from caving in on this. We'll see. I did add another support over here. That's where the water had kind of come down, but I'm going to try to pull this tight enough that we don't have that problem. Early on I draped it over the top, which gave a nice slope, but then I had air holes on the side. And the air holes on the side lets that cool air come in. That's not good. I've got plenty of mulch back here behind the raised bed, so that's keeping the ground insulated so the raised bed's not going to freeze. And with these bales of shavings, I can keep this air pocket good and tight. We stretch that and get some weight on here. I'm going to put a little extra weight. And this has some water in it from the rain. So we'll see if that sheds the snow or not. It's not supposed to start snowing until tomorrow morning. We'll see if this holds. And since we started off with this bed of volunteers and then went ahead and started planting in it, it's kind of odd shaped. So I went with a little lighter plastic. That way I got 12 feet wide. But it's almost not wide enough to cover everything to stretch it tight. Now the forecast says we're going to get down to -1, -2 degrees in the next couple mornings. If we get a blanket of snow on here, that'll help insulate this. We just need to keep this tight enough that it doesn't collapse it. Now I did add a couple more supports where that water sagged it down. So hopefully this will be tight enough that it'll hold. We got the edges down, and this one is our regulation cold frame. We got straw bales around the outside. There's a good thermal mass, plenty of mulch inside, keep that soil warm. We've got a heavy screen, but the reason we're using the screen is what we looked at earlier. If it gets filled with water, it'll just make this a swimming pool. It'll crush all our plants, and we don't want that. Pull that plastic tight, put a weight on the edge to keep the air from coming up in there. In the corners, we got buckets of water where the plastic comes over the straw a little bit. We're using our bales. That way air can't get in there, can't blow that up. Put a little weight on the side, and then by putting some weight on the side, we'll make sure that stays sealed. And just like that, we're tucked in. Really doesn't take very long. You can do this too. This is extreme gardening. This is part 1. We'll look at the snow, we'll look at how these fare, and we'll see what makes it. That'll be part 2. I hope you join me for that. And until next time, remember, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and God bless you. Come on, let's plant. Let's go plant garden.